And it's those types of serves that are going to let your opponent in. In this video, I'm going to talk through the ever popular Tomahawk Serve. I'm going to demonstrate and explain the fundamentals of the technique, as well as how to produce a couple of different spins too. And there may be something slightly different at the end too, so stick around to find out what that is. So the Tomahawk Serve, a really popular serve, really easy for many people to adopt, partly because of the similar playing grip. Not having to make all these grip changes, which are essential for some of the other techniques. We can adopt a similar grip, and once we've executed the serve, we're back into the rally without too much change. Also with the recovery, we're not having to make too many changes after we've executed the serve, and again, allows us to get into the rally a little bit easier. So a really useful serve to have, especially if you're struggling to develop some of the other serves. So it gets its name from axe throwing, throwing a tomahawk. We don't want to let go of the bat, of course, but we're trying to copy that similar action. So the grip is fairly similar to my playing grip. You might find some subtle changes with a little bit more of a backhand grip, might give you a little bit more spin or control, so you're free to play around with a grip that suits you. I tend to deliver this serve from a little bit more of a square on position, and that helps me with a slightly different technique, which I'll show you at the end of the video. So it's possible to do it from square on. It's possible to turn a little bit more from the side. People do definitely deliver the serve from there. So again, just trying to find a position that's suitable for you and your style and allows you to follow up in the rally. So I start with my right leg slightly back, the bat's pointing up. I try and keep this slight angle here. And then I'm looking to use this space behind my head. Again, my action's a little bit smaller, others are a little bit bigger. That doesn't matter too much. Again, finding something that works for you, but it's this type of action here that we're trying to create. And where the ball is sitting here, we're trying to skim right around the outside, and we're trying to get that ball to move from right to left as I'm looking at the ball. Okay, so just for the basic technique, open bat, bat's coming back behind the head, and I'm looking to see if I can make that ball curve. You'll notice I'm throwing the ball up a little bit to the right-hand side of me. That's where the swing of the serve is coming from. So by starting there, that's allowing me to get my arm through here. If I throw the ball up into the middle, then I'm a little bit limited here by my own body, and I can't quite swing through it. So I need this space here. Therefore, I'm throwing the ball up to this side. You might also notice that as I'm making contact, there's a little sink. Sometimes you might need to sink down into the ball to help keep the delivery low. This is quite a common error where we stand up tall and we end up hitting the ball down, creating this big bounce. And it's those types of serves that are going to let your opponent in. So that little sink and squat as you're making contact will just help you keep the ball nice and low and more chance of getting those two bounces. And for the backspin variation, what I'm looking to do is, again, open the racket angle here. I'm trying to contact this leading part of the bat here, and I want to be contacting it as the wrist is striking down. Now, that is what's going to impart the backspin on the serve. Yes, there's going to be some forearm use as well. That's going to create some momentum, but a lot of the acceleration for the spin is going to be coming from that wrist. So you see the wrist cocks back, and then I can fire forward here, and that's happening within this bigger action. So let's take a look at the backspin variation. So we should see a big bend on the table, or if it just bounces off the table, we'll see a big bend on the floor. So it's important to pay attention to that to make sure we're getting the spin that we're intending to. So we're talking about backspin, but it is, of course, a combination of backspin and side spin. So the ball is going to grip, it is going to move off to the side. It's not going to come directly back, but our opponents will have to deal with that element of backspin. So this is the backspin variation off of the return ball. And for the topspin variation, we want to try and keep things really similar. A common error here is bringing the angle of the bat over the top of the ball, and we're striking around the ball this way. Now that will create topspin without any doubt. With your opponent seeing either this or this, it's going to be fairly obvious to them how they need to return it. So we need to be a little bit careful that we're not arching over the top of the ball here to get the topspin. We will get the spin, but we won't necessarily get the deceptive part. So we still want to keep this slight angle here. We still want to be aiming roughly near the top, but instead of chipping the ball down, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on pushing the ball forwards. And that's going to help us create side spin with a little bit of topspin, and then the momentum helps us turn that into more topspin by the time it reaches our opponent. So here's the topspin variation. And now you'll see that there's much less of a curve on the table. There's a little curve and then the ball tends to straighten up. So now the balls have ended up much more towards the back of the hall. I've got my side spin, backspin over there, and I've got my top spin that are just heading that way. So again, having that separation is good confirmation that I'm creating those two different spins. And this is the topspin variation off of the return board. So I'm trying my best to keep them as similar as possible. There are two different spins that we're creating, so there will be some differences, but the more similar I can keep them, the more doubt I'm going to create, the more opportunities I'm going to create for myself. So here's one of each, one backspin, one topspin, so you get to compare them a little. So backspin and topspin. Backspin and topspin. Backspin and topspin. Okay, so the big differences are one is hitting down at the point of contact and the other is pushing slightly around at the point of contact. I'm keeping this angle here and that's allowing me to make those similar deliveries. Two bonus tips here. If you struggle with the squatting down because you've got bad knees or you struggle to get down, you don't have the strength, which is relevant for many people, then we can deliver the serve slightly further away from us. When the contact is quite close here, we're susceptible to this high bounce. So we kind of need to drop down with it to try and keep the height low. If you struggle with that, if we keep the ball toss a little bit further away again, and rather than sinking down with the ball, we can strike it a little bit further out. So rather than having here, we open the arm up a little, and now I can take the ball from a little bit wider, and I can contact it lower without having to sink quite so much. And I can still get those two different variations as well. It's a slightly different technique, slightly different delivery, but a different feel. Perhaps there's some pros and cons to both, but if you struggle to squat down low, then try and just deliver the serve a little bit further away. And the final tip around standing a little bit more square on is that it can potentially give you some more variety. And that square on stance is what's going to allow you to potentially deliver this reverse tomahawk. So if you're delivering your tomahawk from this sort of position, you're obviously not going to be able to do the reverse tomahawk as a variation. So it's not essential that you stand square on, but it can offer you some different varieties. So that's the Tomahawk Serve, a great one for lots of different levels. You can create lots of different spins, different effects. Benefits are you're not having to make all these changes all the time, and you may have more opportunity to impose your game during the rallies. So let me know in the comments, is the Tomahawk Serve one that you already use, or maybe it's one you're going to try out now for the first time? Okay, thank you for watching and see you at the next one. Also with the recovery, we tend not to meet. So it gets its name from, and that's important for a number of reasons, but you'll notice I'm throwing the ball up a little bit to my right-hand side. That's where the swing. Right, so let's take a look at the backhand. But with your opponent seeing either this or this, but if you struggle, not as bad. So let me know in the comments.